Okay, this is going to be part one of something rather special. There's a long story and history to the Changeman robot, which was actually a Horikawa product, which turned into the Metal House company. Goes clear back into the 1970s, when they first designed and were hoping to have success for the toy, but it was too expensive, didn't sell at that point. They only really assembled like 10 of them. I'm going to put a link in the description box down below to take you to a website that will tell you all about the history of the Changeman, so I won't have to go into a bunch of detail about that. Long story short, the ones that were originally designed, of course, had a vinyl boy's head in there, and they had a moving color wheel in this chest area. It is on a wired remote, 2 C-cells. You have one button to make it walk, one button to make the head split and the head come up. This one, of course, besides not working and having a special head to it, here it has a detached arm. It's a vinyl arm. Because they never went into full production, they only built like 10 of them back in the 70s and couldn't hardly get rid of those. All the other parts, which they had made parts for 40 or 50 of them or something like that, were stored away and put into boxes. Through the years, they tried chipping it up, removing the color wheel part from the chest, made another 10 or so for Kitahara or something like that, and that wasn't particularly successful. And then near the end, all the parts were bought up when Metal House was going under, and people had assembled various parts of these. Some of them were prototypes, some of them were samples. Actually, basically they were all prototypes, since there were such a small number of them ever built, and they're just built from parts that were laying around. This one's has problems. The owner's saying it's not running, you can't get the head to go back down in, and it also has, the Metal House round robot head instead of the vinyl boy head, which made it different. And the arm wasn't on, and paid a lot of money for this because they're so rare and so few of them. So it's here to be repaired. And one of the biggest problems I'm going to have, I'm going to turn the light on the camera here, is the way, since it isn't really a production robot and isn't built that way, the fit and finish isn't very good. You can see there's big loose tab areas and everything here. And take a look at this crimp seam here. So you can see parts that were left near the end, and I'm assuming this is probably one of the last ones to be assembled, since it didn't have the vinyl head. They probably ran out of those and tried an experiment with using one of their other heads on there, and someone had marked with a pen. You can see you can just cut out an area to make it big enough to fit around the head and stuff. I think they were experimenting or using up parts that were laying around. I don't know which. Take a look at this crimp on the body here. See, it's very crude. Doesn't really fit. The fit and finish on these parts isn't great, which tells me they probably weren't the finalized parts. They were probably some more of the prototype parts, where they were trying to rework everything and get it to build right. And let's see if we can even see inside here a little bit. Look at the some sort of white goop or something around that tab, which would be part of what's holding this metal belt buckle on around the kaleidoscope effect. In fact, you can see in the kaleidoscope is just a color gel that will rotate in a single light bulb, so it's not going to be very impressive. It won't really be a kaleidoscope. In fact, I'd be surprised if it looks like much of anything. So, in order to get this thing running and working, well, one, it had a problem, the remote, where the buttons weren't working all the time. And two, it has some mechanical problems inside that even when I do get the motor to run, it doesn't always work. The gears kind of get stuck to where, when the owner had it, it was stuck to where he couldn't close the head. I'm going to have to slowly and carefully try to uncrimp these really ugly crimps that were down on the sides And then there's 2 tabs, which may or may not see there. I need to undo those tabs so that I can get the body half to get in there and get the arm mechanism back up and reattach the arm to it. It looks like they were simply clipping the vinyl arm, in this one that was thrown together anyway, onto a piece of metal which is floating around in there. You look right down here, you see this piece of metal with a slot in it? Well, that slot actually should be aiming down to catch on the leg, and a part that we can't see down there would be up here where the shoulder is, where the arm would connect. So I have to get that apart and get in there to reattach that arm, and at that same time I'll try to address if there's anything I can do for the gearbox to make it more reliable. Like I say, I can get it to occasionally do some functions. Let's so there's some walking going on and arm swinging. And this one should be the head one. Okay, we got it to close, which was first time I think I've got it to close all the way. Like I said, you go, well, if it's working, why do you need to get in to fix it? Well, I got to get in to fix the arm, but it doesn't reliably do either one of those. It kind of gets into modes where it won't do anything. Let's try the head one again while that's working and see if we can see what the color wheel thing looks like. I'll turn the light off on the camera so it doesn't swamp that out. Okay, color wheel is not spinning, the head is not opening. So this is one of those times where I can get the motor to run, but the gear that's supposed to shift in the gearbox to either do the head or the walking is stuck, and it's not in either position. Well, let's try back the walking and see if that gets things going. Okay, it moved over to the walking position. There we go. Let's try turning it upside down and see if that'll help move the gear. And it did. So now you can kind of see that kaleidoscope thing, which wasn't that impressive. It's basically just a light and some color. And once again, it's in that position where it's not doing anything. So, because I don't edit videos, and the reason I don't normally edit videos, well, there's actually 2 reasons. One, if any of you have ever edited videos, you'll know it takes 3 to 4 times longer to edit video than it does to shoot it. It's a lot of time wasted, which I need to spend on doing projects. And the other reason is my poor old laptop here just doesn't have the horsepower for editing videos, so all my videos are always live. They are what they are. So I wanted to show the toy before I did anything to it so you could appreciate what it's going to take to try to get in there to undo those body crimps where they crimped the body together. And there's one tab down in the crotch here, which I'll have to release. And now that the head's closed, you can see these buttons easier. Release the buttons, and I should be able to move the front of the body, hopefully, off and get inside and take it further. So, video number 2, part 2, with any luck, should have us inside the toy.